Hi there, Prairie Plant Girl here. I plan to get some of my tomatoes out, planted in my garden today. My tomatoes have been kind of a crazy disaster this year, but I thought you might like to see what I wound up with. If you've followed along, you've seen where I had, I think, some bad potting mix or something, and a lot of them just weren't growing. Most of them eventually started to grow, but they took a really long time to get going this year, and some of them still aren't looking that good. I had changed out most of the potting mix. A few of them, I just kind of, when I up-potted them, I mixed new mix in with what they had and didn't remove a lot from what they already had, and I think that was a mistake. But my average last frost date is May 24th, but I generally can get them in around that date or a week earlier with some protection here, but it was a miserable spring, so that just didn't happen. So they're just kind of languishing here, getting leggy and spindly and kind of crazy looking. So I really want to go through them. They've been outside for, I think this is their, I can't remember if this is the third or fourth day now they've been out up on my deck, which is a little bit higher. I find the night temperatures stay a little warmer up there, and I have them back, so they're just getting morning sun, and then they have complete afternoon shade. Now obviously I've moved them down here for the video, but they were up several feet higher. And then at night I've been putting frost cloth over them. The first 2 nights I took them in the house, and then after that I've left them out just covered with frost cloth, just trying to get them, you know, acclimated to the weather out here a little bit. When they're up on my deck, they're not quite in as much wind, but they are still getting some wind, so they're acclimating to that a bit. But it's time to get them in the garden. Now, normally you would want to harden your plants, especially things like tomatoes and more tender plants, off for a good week or so, and make sure that they're going into nice warm soil. Now, my soil, I've checked, and it's pretty warm. It's the one bed is 15 degrees and the other one is 18 degrees Celsius. So I'll for sure plant the 18 degrees Celsius bed out. I'd like to get them both. So we'll see where I get and how I'm feeling about it when I get my hands down in the soil. Then I really know, if it feels cold to my hands, then I certainly don't want to put tomatoes in it. When I plant them, I'll still use, I have cozy coats. So if you've seen some of my tomato videos, I have lots. Then you'll know that I like to use a product called Cozy Coats or Wall of Water. There's lots of different brand names for them. They're all basically the same thing. And they just help to protect the plants a little bit. I think they ease the transition from indoors to out a little bit. They help, hold warm air around them. They help to protect them from the sunshine so they're not getting scorched, and they help protect them a bit from the wind, and then I can slowly roll them down and let the plants acclimate that way. And in 3 nights we're forecast to have 4 degrees again, which is cold for tomatoes for sure. So I want to make sure, even though we'll get frost, the tomatoes won't want that 4 degrees. So I want to get them in there and get them settled in before that happens, or I'll have to be taking them inside. But if I get them in the cozy coats and get them settled in there, then they'll be fine that way. But first I need to go through what I have and see if it lines up with my plan, because I did have a lot of trouble getting these started this year. And I'm just going to try and set out what I have here and what I need, and we'll go through there. So I thought while I'm going through them, I'll just stop and tell you what I know about the tomatoes. Several of these are new varieties for me this year, so I just know what I found on the internet, but some of them I've grown for years. So the first thing I need is 4 Manitoba tomatoes. So I'm going to see if I can find those in this pile here. Here's one. Well, that's not a bad looking tomato either. The Manitoba tomato is a bush tomato. So this is one that you don't need to do any pruning on. I still find staking it is a good idea, just because they can get a little top heavy. You can prune out some of the suckering branches if you want to. So that would be like when you have the main stem coming up here, and then you have a side shoot. Tomatoes will send out another shoot through here, and that's called a sucker. And with a bush type tomato, they tend to set most of their fruit all within, you know, a few weeks time. So you kind of want to let them get as many suckers as the plant can maintain without snapping off or breaking over, so that you can get lots of fruit off of it. If you let it set too much fruit, sometimes the fruit will often be a little bit smaller. So you want to keep that in mind if you're having a really productive year with lots of flowers. Maybe you want to trim a few off if you want bigger fruit. But for a bush variety, it's one of the easiest varieties. You just throw it in the ground. You can kind of let it do its thing. Like I said, I do think that pruning it, I do think that staking it and pruning any low branches that are going to touch the soil is still a good idea, because when they're touching the soil, they're more prone to bacterial and fungal diseases getting into the plant. So, but this is my bush tomato, and I need 4. This is my favorite tomato. It's a great one. I like it for slicing. It works great to throw in for sauces and pastas and things. It's not too juicy for that, and it doesn't have, I find, a lot of seeds. And it's just a nice light flavor. Nice red, round tomato. So, and I'd say about a small to medium sized tomato. One of my favorites. And it's a good cold climate tomato. I forget what their days to maturity are, but they ripen up quite quickly. And they just seem a little bit hardier in my climate. I don't know if that's true, but they were developed in Manitoba, Canada. So let's see if I can find 3 more. That looks like a dud. Here's another one. So you can see this. So this is one of the ones that came up late in the bad compost and got transplanted with just new compost around it. So I'll use this if I have to, but hopefully I can find some that look better than this, and then I won't use this one. Here's another one. So this one's a little bit scraggly. So when I plant this plant, I'll plant it down pretty deep. Now you have 2 ways to do that. You can dig a very deep hole, which is what a lot of people do. Here in the north, where our ground isn't necessarily very warm, sometimes it's a better idea to dig more of a trench and plant it on its side and have it come up. And there's little spaces on here, on these plants that will throw out roots. A lot of people think it's from the hairs on the stems. It's not actually the hair that grows the roots, but they will form roots off the stem and make it for a stronger plant that way. So then you could just grow it down in soil and just have this part here from this hand up kind of as the plant coming out of the ground. And if I do that, then I would take off these lower branches again. But so that's a candidate there. Here's another one. Same thing. It's a little bit spindly. I actually think this one's gotten a little bit scorched from the sun, it looks like. But so again, I might plant this one just a little bit deeper. Probably won't put it on its side, so I'm going to just take this leaf off and plant it up to here. Take this leaf stem off. Well, that looks like that's what I have, so we'll throw this little one in there and we'll see what happens. I might not get anything out of it, or maybe being smaller and going in the ground, it'll shock less and be the best performer. We'll find out, I guess. So that's my 4 Manitobas. So then I was looking for mortgage lifter, and I wanted 6. Now again, hopefully this isn't one of my 6, but we'll find out. I didn't remember seeing a lot as I went through here, so I might be out of luck. Oh, here's another one. So again, just a really little guy. Oh, here's a little Manitoba. Looking pretty sad, came right out of the soil. I'll just keep this as a backup, I think. Mortgage lifter. Okay, well, it looks like this is what I have for mortgage lifter. And I do remember these were really hard. I had trouble getting them to germinate, and obviously this is all that came up out of that. These are a staking tomato. They're normally a nice, big, strong tomato plant. They're called mortgage lifter. The story goes, this one's a little wet, it's dripping on me. The story is that they're called mortgage lifter because the man who developed these sold the tomatoes because they produced so many nice big tomatoes on a plant that he was able to pay off his mortgage selling the tomatoes from them. So whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what it says. So I was planning on doing 6 of these, and this is all I have. So I'll have to fill in that space with something else. But yeah, these are staking tomatoes. I'll find a better example so I can explain that to you. Okay, I just went through and kind of sorted them out a little bit, and I found another mortgage lifter. So that's more what a mortgage lifter seedling should look like. Looks a lot healthier than that. Yeah, I don't know, it's an interesting year for tomatoes for me. So I end up with 3 of those that I'll plant. Hopefully they all grow for me. Some are a little stunted. Then I'll have room for my paste tomatoes in that bed, and I had wanted to do mostly these Amish paste, and see if I can pull it out here. Elizabeth, look at that. They're just so scraggly, like from one extreme to the next with the tomatoes this year. The sad part is most of these scraggly ones were planted like a week or 2 after these little ones. This is crazy. Bad soil. Oh, and I just broke this one. So I'll plant this. I just snapped it right there, but I'll just plant it deeper. I can feel all the little nodules where the roots will actually come out on this. So I'll just plant it deeper and it will still grow, even though I just snapped it pretty good. There's still skin there. I could just snap it right off and put it in the ground, and normally they'll just put roots out when you do that, but since it has some connection, I'll try and keep that connection and put it out like that. I'm gonna try and put this one down out of the wind a bit. So I only have 1 of the Amish paste, and then I have several of the Elizabeth. Those are really nice paste tomatoes. They grow nice sized tomatoes. If I remember, I preferred the Elizabeth flavor for the tomatoes, but the Amish paste was a good tomato as well, good paste tomato, and it produced quite well for me. Now I have some Roma tomatoes, and they seem to have come up. I didn't actually have them on my plan, but I kind of planted them as a backup when the rest weren't coming up. And I have 4 of those, so I'll probably put these in place of, I will put these in place of the Amish paste tomatoes in that row. So I'll have 6, I think, paste tomatoes going in the end there. And then I'm going to be planting 6 black crim. I really, really like black crim. It's a beautiful tomato. It has like a deep kind of purpley dark skin on the shoulders of the tomato, and then it turns into like a deep red, almost like blood red kind of color for the bottom of the tomato usually. Gorgeous tomato, nice kind of almost smoky flavor on the inside. Great slicer. I also like to add, a couple of these in to my like sauces and things, because it just adds a richness to the flavor that the paste tomatoes I just find don't have. So this is a beautiful tomato. I have several of them here. Some of them are really leggy. Like if I can get this one off, the others here like this, and some are like this. This isn't a terrible tomato, but it is a little bit stunted. This is what I'd like if you're shopping for for tomatoes to plant out. This is more anywhere between this and this is what I would look for. My tomatoes are a little rough this year. So that's kind of my main varieties of tomatoes. Now I have kind of some fun tomatoes, and most of these are tomatoes that I've never tried before. Maybe all of them actually. So this is a green Vernissage. I'm not sure how to pronounce it exactly, but it was free seed that a company sent to me, so I thought I'd try it out. Now I have cheat notes on these varieties because I haven't grown most of them, or I'm not familiar with them. So this is a green striped tomato. So I'm going to be curious to see if I can tell when it's ripe and ready to harvest. Might take a few tomatoes to figure that out, but I'm guessing you can probably feel it. Like it probably still kind of softens up like a regular tomato. It just has that dark, just has the green skin with the green striping on it. It's an indeterminate tomato. It's a 2 ounce, so I'd say like kind of like a salad tomato. It's a smaller tomato. And yeah, it says it was good for salads, fresh eating, and it also said in where I was looking that they're good for dried tomatoes. So I might have to get my dehydrator out and give that a go and see how they are. And 70 days for that tomato. Then the next is, let's see if I can find it. I have one little Ted's pink currant tomato here. So I wanted to try, I really like the little teeny tiny little tomatoes that I think they're just fun to throw like on like a raw veggie tray, because they're just fun. They're like little sprinkles of tomatoes to grab. They're great for snacking. They're good for just throwing in a salad, and they're just like a nice little size of just little fresh little pops of flavor. So this is the Ted's pink currant, 1/2-inch pink tomatoes. It's a very productive, very large plant. So currant tomatoes, from what I've read, can be quite large and out of control plants. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes from these. There's actually 2 little tiny starts in here where these wind up, but they definitely need to be staked and kept under control. And 75 to 80 days. So be interesting to see how those turn out. I'm looking for, I have a very special plant in here. I think this is it over here. Yes, so this is a Thornburn's Terracotta. So this was recommended to me by one of my viewers, John Jude. He was very emphatic that this was a tomato I absolutely had to try, and I looked it up and it looks like it should grow well in my part of the world here. So I thought I'd give it a try. It is like a honey brown colored tomato. You're gonna have very colorful tomatoes this year. So, and it's supposed to be a good slicer and cooker, I think. Yeah. It's supposed to have like a really rich, sweet flavor. So maybe a little bit less tangy than some tomatoes. It definitely needs to be staked. It's indeterminate from what I could see, and 75 days. So not bad for my climate. I have 110 days of frost-free, so this is actually not a bad little specimen either. I have another one. It's a little bit more out of control. So I'll have 2 of them, but I definitely need to get these in the ground and staked, these tomatoes. Some of them are just going crazy. Now, I had wanted to try a tomato called Petit Moineau, not sure how to say it, but none of them germinated and grew properly for me. So I'm gonna have to save that for another year. And I have another one here that's another currant tomato. Look on the back here. Candyland Red. So this is, again, a really tiny little plant. And I don't know if it's because it's a currant tomato, because the other currant tomatoes are really, really fine and tiny like this too, or if it's just that bad potting mix, because I have a few really stunted tomatoes out of it. This one is a All-American Standards, I think is what it's called, AAS winner, this variety. And again, little currant tomato, really tiny little tomatoes, like 1/2-inch, 1/4 ounce fruit. And this one is supposed to be a little bit more refined, we'll say, in its growth habit than most currant tomatoes, so it won't get quite so scraggly and out of control. So we'll see if there's a difference between this and the Ted's Pink. And 55 to 60 days. So yeah, it should be not too far behind, except that it is a bit stunted. So we'll see how it goes. And then I did the Super Sweet 100. Now I grew these last year, and I grew them in my greenhouse, or my cold frame, and they did not grow well in there, but I think the pot they were in was just a little bit too small, and I just think they kind of got forgotten about once in a while. So they did grow nice, nice fruit. It didn't have the best flavor, but I'm wondering if it was the growing conditions that they were in. It was kind of, sometimes if tomatoes don't have the best conditions, then the flavor of the fruit isn't as good. So I thought I'd give this a chance again in my raised beds, which are just raised like a foot off the ground. So they have a lot of native soil under them and a lot of really good compost in the beds. And they'll get water just on a more regular schedule because they'll be hooked up to a drip system there. So I'm going to plant this one plant in there and give it a try. So I think overall I'll wind up planting all but a couple of these plants because I had some that just didn't grow for me, so I have empty spaces that were allotted for those. So I'm gonna have a lot of these. I was only planning on planting one of each of these kind of different varieties of tomatoes, these kind of fun little snacky tomatoes and that, but or like the green Vernissage that I'd never grown before. But I think I'll wind up putting whatever I have in and just see what I wind up with, and it's gonna be an interesting year for tomatoes for me. So I'm gonna take these and I'm gonna get them planted out. I'm not gonna show you much. I'm not really gonna show you planting these. I have lots of tomato planting videos if you wanna refer to those to see how I plant my tomatoes. I gave you a little bit of basic instruction here about you know, why you would stake or how you would prune your tomatoes down for growing them. I don't know if I mentioned that the indeterminate or staking tomatoes, you're gonna take those suckers that I talked about earlier off, and that just helps the plant to put its time and energy into growing up tall and giving you, they say, better quality fruit off the sides. And when they get so tall, if you have a bunch of suckers, they're just gonna snap the plant. But the indeterminate tomatoes, they produce fruit over a long period of time. So they'll produce at the bottom and grow up, produce more, and they'll just keep going that way. They're like a vine that just keeps producing as it gets higher. So just use a really soft tie. I like to do like a wrap around the stake, cross it, and then a wrap around the plant, and I think that makes it more secure. I bought some special clips for tomatoes this year. I'm gonna experiment with those a little and see if I like those, because they would be reusable instead of the ties I can reuse, but sometimes they get broken in that, or lost, they fall off and they get lost in the soil. So I thought maybe the clips would be better and faster. But I'm gonna take these, haul these over, and get started in the one bed for sure. I'll give you a peek at them when I have them in there. But like I said, if you wanna check out the videos of me, how I plant my tomatoes, that'll be down below. And yeah, not quite the tomato plan I had gone in with, but we're gonna make it work. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye. I wanted to show you this, and I don't have my mic on, so hopefully you can hear me okay. But when I was going through my tomatoes to put them out, this one was labeled as Roma, but I think I got some seeds mixed up or labels in the wrong spot or something, because this is a potato leaf tomato. Let's see a good example of a not potato leaf tomato. Let's see. So that's the Manitoba tomato. See that very segregated leafing, or whatever you call that there. Lots of lobes to it. That's a regular tomato leaf. This is a potato leaf tomato. Over here is an Elizabeth, and again you can see the bumps along the edges. So the only potato leaf tomato that I grow is a JP Trifle. Japanese pink, I think, is the one I had this year. There is also a Japanese black, but I think I had the pink, and it did not, I thought I didn't get any to germinate, but I'm wondering if I did. So if I did, I'll be very happy. If that's what this grows into, I'll plant it. I'm gonna plant it over with my black crim, because this is a very similar tomato to the black crim. Staking tomato, dark shoulders, really nice smoky flavor, produces really well, nice large fruit. So hopefully that's what this is, because it sure looks like it. So I'm gonna put it in my other bed with my black crim tomatoes. I think I forgot to tell you about this one. So this tomato is called a chocolate cherry. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know I've been in search of the perfect little sprinkly kind of currant sized tomato that I purchased years ago at a store, and I'd saved seeds for years off of it, and it was called Chocolate Sprinkles, and I just adored that tomato. But then, I don't know, I didn't get seeds one year. For some reason, I didn't collect them. I don't remember what happened, but I ran out of those seeds. And then every time I bought chocolate sprinkles tomatoes since then in the package, like seeds, it's never been that tomato. So I was reading the descriptions and things, and this sounded very similar, just a very tiny little tomato that grows in clusters, like a currant type tomato. A little bit darker, nice bright red fruit. So I think the one that I bought was probably mislabeled. It was probably some sort of currant tomato or something, but since this chocolate cherry tomato sounded very similar to the one that I had before, I thought I would give it a try. So I put 2 plants in here of that. So that one and this one. And they're a staking tomato, very tall. And I probably will let these, like in the currant tomatoes, these other very tiny kind of cherry type tomatoes, get a little bushier. I won't pinch them quite as much as the rest. For those of you that have stuck in with this video this long, I'll give you one little tip. You don't have to have these cozy coats or wall of water to do what I'm doing, you know, to just kind of slowly harden your plants off in the ground here like this and protect them from cold nights and wind early in the season. So let me show you what I do when I run out of these things and I still have more plants left. I try to find a plant that's still kind of protected on some sides here. And I just take jugs of water. Just lean them together. Plant is safe inside. The jugs will just give that plant just a little bit more protection. Absorb some extra warmth and let it off at night if needed, and keep the wind and frying sun off.